Sony came out and revealed pictures and details about the new controller for the PlayStation 5. They've decided to call the new controller the DualSense and gave us quite a few details. So here's a look at the new controller and what it means for the next generation of consoles. This is Games to You. First of all, let's get the obvious out of the way. This controller looks an awful lot like an Xbox controller that we already know. The shape has changed quite dramatically to look like their competitors, and it shows that it will fit in the hand much better. Now, I'm a PlayStation player, I'm not gonna hide that, and I've become used to the DualShock controllers, but even I can admit the Xbox pad feels much more comfortable in the hand, as it's actually shaped for a human hand. The DualShock 4, although functional, is like a gamepad from the 90s. That was a time when crazy designs came out and companies were still trying to figure out how to make a controller better than arcades. Once Microsoft finally came into the console making business, they brought out the Duke. A horribly big controller that didn't work for anyone really, but they fixed that very quickly when the Xbox 360 came out with arguably the best controller ever made. They updated this with the Xbox One and have iterated very slightly for the Series X, and that is simply a good thing. Sony has finally copied this design and I really couldn't be happier. Sure, it means the DualShock look will be gone, but it means that you're going to be playing a game for an extended period of time, your hands won't hurt. One thing that's still different to the Xbox pad though is the placement of the analog sticks. From the days of the PS1, these two sticks have felt a bit like an afterthought. Seem to be stuck on the bottom of the controller, but that really doesn't seem to be the case here at all. The DualSense has much more sweeping design, meaning that the sticks appear to be designed into the core of the controller finally. Now, I'm not going to get into that argument of inline versus offset sticks because that just comes down to personal preference. I prefer inline like on the PlayStation pads, but that's probably because I'm more used to it. The fact that Sony has kept with this means there is still a difference between the two systems, and it's something that really could make a couple of people buy one console over the other. Away from the sticks, the controller has kept a lot from the DualShock 4, with the D-pad and face buttons all remaining the same, as well as the triggers. Unfortunately, the touchpad in the middle of the controller also remains, but I think that's because Sony dug themselves a bit of a hole in 2013 when they released the PS4. The new console will be backwards compatible, and to do that you need to be able to use all the features of the last console. This includes the touchpad, even though not many games used it at all. Either side of the touchpad is the light bar that was present on the DualShock 4. Finally, it's just on top of the pad so you can actually see what it's doing, but unless you have PSVR, it's still pretty useless. In terms of the back of the controller, we still have the same triggers as before, with a very similar shape. But finally, we get a USB Type-C port for charging its lithium-ion battery. Maybe Microsoft can take notes here. So how about new features? Well, for a start, the controller now has haptic feedback in the triggers, so doing things like pulling a bow in a game will tighten them. This feedback is also in the standard rumble of the controller, so doing things like going around a corner in a racing game will make the controller vibrate in different ways to give you that feel of actually driving. How well all this works will be completely down to the developers, so we'll have to see. The DualSense will also have a new speaker array and microphone built in, so for those of us who don't have a gaming headset, you'll now at least be able to respond to your teammates during a squad match or something like that. Of course, for those of us that do have a headset, there is still a headphone jack, so thumbs up for that. The one thing we don't know yet about the new controller is the Create button. Sony has said it replaces the Share button, but has said they'll reveal more closer to launch. So all of this sounds great, but what about things that people don't like? Now, this is completely subjective, but a lot of people have had a huge problem with the actual look of the controller. Basically, the two-tone design with the white and black seems to split people all over the internet. Some people, like me, love it, but even I have my concerns with what this design means for the console itself. There are some out there that think the console will also get the same design and might look a bit strange in people's living rooms. New consoles for quite a while have been a single colour, bar a few special editions. The Xbox One and PS4 were both just black boxes that fit in most living rooms without any issues, but this generation will be quite different. The Xbox Series X already looks like simply a PC, which could struggle to fit in most entertainment centres, and the PlayStation 5 might stand out too much due to its colour. Whatever happens, this is going to be a really interesting generation, with both Sony and Microsoft doing some out-of-the-box thinking with designs, and you could say it's a sign of the times. Take TVs, smartphones and satellite boxes that most people have, and they all do their best to blend in. No manufacturer seems to be pushing designs at all these days. Even folding phones look like regular phones that can fold, so maybe these two companies trying something different is a really good thing. Maybe this is a sign of more thought-provoking designs. Maybe this is a look into the future of not just gaming, but tech in general.